Hello, and welcome to another episode of Brettcast's Movie and TV Talk. This episode, however, is not just another episode, as you don't get to hear just me babble on this time, as I am joined by my good friend here, Geek.
Hello.
Geek, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Geek. I am from the Geek Source Entertainment YouTube channel, and also I am most active right now on twitch.tv/Geek Source. Me and Brett know each other from work, and used to work together and talk movies and stuff in real life together. So it's a pleasure to be back, albeit via Discord call now, to discuss movies once again, and I'm very excited.
And so, speaking of movies, the two of us watched both the Dark Knight Returns animated movies on HBO Max, and we are going to be talking about those today. So remember, there will be spoilers, and now let's get into it. But before we actually get into it, let's go over a little bit of the plot for both movies. So, in part one of The Dark Knight Returns, it's all about Bruce Wayne returning to the scene as Batman, though being a little more brutal than usual. Batman has to deal with the criminal group called the Mutants, in which part one ends with Batman getting in a fight with the mutant leader, who does go to jail, who does also end up killing the mayor of Gotham, and then it ends with the Joker realizing that Batman is back. And then in part two, which is about the Joker coming back, sort of, for part of the movie, um, he gasses, the entire TV show audience and its host. Then Batman and Joker get into a fight in the Tunnel of Love, which ends with the Joker dying and then blowing up the place. And then Batman and Robin get into a shootout with police so that Batman can escape, which he does, although he is hurt very badly from his fight with the Joker. Then we have the secondary plot of the US being at war with the Corto Maltese, which is involving Superman, who stops the nuke, but it causes an EMP, which causes the power to go out and rioting. Batman and Robin go and rally the Sons of Batman because things are going to hell in Gotham. But Batman is able to stop people from rioting, and then from here, part two basically turns into Batman v Superman, with Batman getting to his mech bat suit and hashing it out with Superman, who just wants to talk. But Batman is able to fake his own death to get Superman to leave him alone. Um, and then yeah, part two basically ends with the start of a new Batcave being built. That's pretty much it. So now we'll get into what we liked and didn't like. Geek, if you want to start.
So yeah, one of the first things I really liked, and I think this comes down to the director, Jay Olivia, who I'm vaguely familiar with and understand has a name in like comic book, uh, in the comic book world for being, kind of I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I know the name of the director, Jay Olivia. They're like a well respected name in the comic book world. Um, this movies looked really good. I was a little timid going into these films because I've seen Flashpoint and I've seen The Killing Joke animated adaptations, and those movies, while they're good, lacked a bit in the animation department, in my opinion, like how the films looked. Things felt really stiff overall, and just they felt like made for TV animated movies, But this looked really good. I don't know if it was just higher budget or what, but I have to imagine that a lot of it comes down to the directing of Jay Olivia, also knowing like how to make a movie look, you know, like a lot of these shots felt really cinematic. The movie felt really good. Some of my favorite sequences were the aforementioned Bruce Wayne realizing he had to come back as Batman. And honestly, might be a controversial opinion. I liked part one more than part two. I feel like part two is what everyone knows because it is the, you know, the part where, you know, Batman fights the Joker and he fights Superman. But I really liked seeing Bruce Wayne return. And I really liked the way that was handled. And it felt like I was watching, you know, a movie. Like if you had put this out in theaters, I would have felt like, wow, this is really well done, you know. So I don't know how. I don't want to carry on too much to take away from you. So I'll leave it there for now, and I'll let you take over.
Actually, I do have to agree with you there. I did like part one. I mean, I didn't mind part two, as you know, but like I did feel like what was the scene? It's like one of the like four or five scenes in part one, you know, when like petty crime is happening and Batman comes in, and it's like I think he was chasing after some guys of the mutant gang or whatever, and you know he's like trying to grapple, and you like see him like, you know, kind of like keeling over a bit and being out of breath, like, you know, it's like they show in a very subtle way, like, yeah, he's 55, he's not as young and spry as he used to be.
I really like that aspect too of seeing like an actual like older Batman, who is not only dealing with, you know, the opponent he faces, you know, in hand to hand combat or whatever, but the opponent that is his aging body, not really wanting to cooperate with what he is trying to accomplish at times.
Yeah, exactly. And I I kind of had a like and dislike about the fact that he was more brutal and violent in both of these movies. Like, I like that he wasn't more violent than in like before this, you know, I watched like Justice League Dark, both of those, and Injustice, and it's like blood and gore all over the place, which is fine. But, you know, I like that they didn't go that far, but then it's just like he never really used his mind as much in these movies. Like, especially in part two, when it's like Superman, you know, just wants to talk to him, and yet he's just like, yeah, the only way this is gonna really work out is if we fight each other. Like, that's it.
Yeah, I mean that is pretty much the what was going to happen because like if Batman didn't stop, which he wasn't going to, then Superman was going to be putting him down, you know, somehow. But yeah, my thing, I think that's kind of related. My thing that I disliked, I don't know how much of this goes to the movie versus the comic, if this was in the comics or not. But my one thing that I did not like was seeing like Batman seemingly take, you know, some really bad hits and then just kind of walk it off. Like, you know, like I would have liked to have seen him use his mind more as well. Like I didn't mind the brutality aspect necessarily of him like you know, attacking goons and stuff. But when it came to the actual fights, I wish there, yeah, would have been more on the like him adjust his strategy for the fact that like yeah, if he gets hit, he's not going to be able to recover. You know, like it's already I already take issue with that in some superhero films where people take some just really bad hits that you would not normally be able to walk off, and then they walk it off, you know, and then it's even more so a problem with me here, considering that the film also kind of tries to drive home that, yeah, Batman's older and kind of not in prime condition anymore. And yet he still takes hits and walks off hits that, you know, a 20-year-old man would be like keeled over from, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even in the like the Superman fight, like I know he's in the mech suit, but I mean there was that one part when like Superman punches him like through a car. like how much
I
of the blow is the mech suit actually taking versus his body, you know?
right. Well, and even then, like the impact would even if the mech suit took the brunt of the hit, there would still be like G forces and all that. Like I think he doesn't just throw him through a car. I think he like then follows that up with like smashing him through a wall or something. Like yeah, there was a lot of points where it just seemed like, bruh, you should not be like moving right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he even just walks away after being like stabbed by the Joker and is bleeding out.
Right, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, yeah, he's seen like bleeding out from the Joker, and then 5 minutes later, okay, yep, I gotta stop Superman. It's just like, what is? You literally were just in a hospital bed you were in a bed like tied up to a monitor 5 minutes ago. You should like if you were in your prime, you would not be taking these hits. There's no way you should be able to take these hits now. Like
Yeah. I will say though, kind of building on this, one of the things that I did like about these movies is how there was a lot of questioning from like the people in the universe of the movie, like once Batman came back, like questioning his methods and questioning his brutality.
right, yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, because that's something you don't see, and like there was that one scene early on in part one, um, one of the like again 4 or 5 scenes when he's stopping like petty crime where like those two cops show up and like the one cop's just like, hey, it's Batman, and the other cop's just like, dude, how could you let him do this? He's crippling these people.
Right, yeah. I really like that as well. Like that is actually one of my favorite aspects of the film entirely is like the way everyone kind of accept comes to accept, but I think that was handled really well. I liked seeing that clash throughout, both from like the people in the city and debating it, and then like within the cop force, like you touched on those two officers, but then also from the old to the new, Commissioner Gordon retiring and his replacement, and how they had very different views, and yet at the end of the film, she comes to terms with Batman is a force for good because like he's literally saving the city right now and rallying the city together so that way it doesn't fall apart. So like I really liked how the movie handled like that question of should Batman be Batman.
Yeah, yeah, it was really nice to see that, and like you said, I think they handled it really well. They didn't make it feel like, you know, it wasn't like a just a complete 180, like 1 minute they're like, "Man, Batman sucks," and then the next they're like, "He's great. We love this guy."
Right, yeah.
Um, and yeah. Um, Another thing I was kind of mixed on was this new Robin. I forgot her actual name.
Carrie Kelly, I think.
Yeah, that's it. Carrie Kelly. 'Cause like I don't much have a problem with her being Robin. I just think it was kind of weird how quickly Bruce was to be like, "You're Robin, let's go."
Yeah, that was something I took issue with as well. Just because it's like this is a schoolgirl. Like they make mention of that. Like, shouldn't you be in class or something? Like, isn't this a school? I think Superman says that to her. Like, isn't this a school night for you? Like, and Batman just takes her in. Like, I don't know. It seems like there are certain things with the movie, and I don't know how much of this comes down to them adapting a comic that really didn't go into it or they didn't have time. But that was my thing. There's a lot of things I really like about the movie that I wish I could have seen more of. And also to like there are things I didn't like that I felt like could have been fleshed out more. And I feel like this is one of those aspects of Robin. I wish we could have had more of a rationale for why Bruce took Robin in, and it was so immediately trusting of her, like beyond the fact that she just hopped in and say, like, you know, it's one thing for Batman to get back into the fight. It's another thing for him to just bring a girl along with him, like, and I wish we could have seen more rationale about like what his mindset was for accepting that, because like they make brief mention of like, what happens to Jason, and then Batman just kind of shakes it off as like, I know exactly what happened, or something like that, I remember exactly, or something like that. So it's like, okay, but what's your justification then? Like, what is your mentality for bringing her in? And then also like, what is her home life like we briefly get touches on that with seeing her at school and stuff, where like her friends are like, where are you now, like, but what is her day to day, how is she working this into her day-to-day life? I would have liked to have seen more of that, and that is my one thing about the film. I wish we could have seen more to all of the aspects, because everything I liked, I would have liked to see more of, and I feel like the things I disliked, I could have been soothed over if they went more in depth with. And again, I don't know if that just came down to time constraints for the movie, the fact that the comic itself didn't go into it, so they were, I don't know what the like. I don't know the reasons why they couldn't have, but I wish they did. But it's not like a huge gripe either, so it's not like something I'm like, oh, this will knock a whole star off my score or something.
No, right. Like I get that she saved him from getting squashed by the mutant leader guy, but I just don't think that that's enough justification to just be like, you're the new Robin and I'm okay with this. I know you're just a school person, but like you're the new Robin, so get used to it.
Right. Honestly, I think it would have been interesting to see like the same take um for like Robin. Like what would a more seasoned, hardened Robin play into the story, and two, like I think it could have been interesting to see like if another thing is the fact that this Robin was so young. It could have been interesting to see more of a play on the contrast of that they really didn't play on. In that, like, she's a young schoolgirl and he's, an old man. Like, what is their life? How does that present challenges for them when he's training her? How does that present challenges for them on day to day life, trying to work this through? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that could have been really interesting, and time constraints or what have you probably just, didn't allow them to get into it. And again, that's why I wish the movies could have been longer.
Yeah. I would say something I found hilarious is that Batman just has a tank.
Right?
Cause I just thought that was so funny. It's just like, oh look, we're rallying the mutants, and he's just driving his tank. Like, okay, sure, why not have a tank?
It seems very overkill for one city. Like I get it if like Batman was this was like, them going up against Darkseid, but even the Joker, I don't think necessarily requires a tank to be brought against him, but it was still cool to see in use. Don't get me wrong, I really liked that tank. It was cool.
Yeah. Speaking of the Joker, I don't know about you, but I feel like his return was just really short.
Yeah, which I understand that in a way. I think in a way that almost works because of the fact that like I don't think Joker in this either of their returns weren't going to be long lived, right? Like it wasn't like I feel like this was the last hurrah for both this Batman and Joker, and so I think story wise they knew that, and that's what like I mean Joker, like I think that's why Joker does what he does, because he kind of knows that once he pops back up into the scene, it's gonna be one last fight, like so in a way I like that. I just wish they could have had that more of a, like, it just kind of seems like it just happens, like he returns, he makes a big statement with killing everyone, and then they have their showdown kind of, and it just kind of happens, like I wish there could have been a little bit more, and I don't even know how to execute it, but I guess a little bit more thematic resonance of like this is the last time Joker and Batman would face off. And that brings me to the one thing that I kind of wish, like, regarding Batman being more brutal. Like, he makes reference to, like, as far as I know, he doesn't ever kill anyone in this film, but he makes reference to, like, Joker when he's facing off. He's like, all the people I've murdered because I let you live. So, like, what was the end result if Batman didn't take Joker's life then? What was the end result going to be of that fight if Joker didn't kill himself? That, like, because Batman broke his neck at that point, and then Joker just finished the job. But was that it? Was Batman just intending to, like, basically leave Joker immobile for the rest of his life, or what? Um, but I so that was one of my things that my questions was like, so how is this fight going to go? You know, like when he said that, like, is he going to kill him? Like, I figured he wouldn't because I never remember reading that, like, oh, Batman kills Joker in this. I feel like that would have come up in discussions about it because I kind of know the general story, but I never read anything like that. So it's kind of like, so what's going to happen? Like, and then, you know, it seemed kind of slightly convenient that then the Joker, you know, for all intents and purposes, Batman did kill him because the Joker killed himself and then Batman took the fall. You know, like, and so I wish there could have been a little bit more, just going back to my original, but I wish there could have been a little bit more impact on the fact that regardless of what goes down, who wins and how they win, this is the last time they fight. You know, I think I don't know, and I don't even know how I would have executed that, but you know, I think as a concept it works. Of like these are two seasoned, the seasoned hero and the seasoned antagonist both making one last hurrah. You know.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you said, I feel like the impact of it wasn't fully there with how short it was, but I mean, maybe that's how it is. I personally I don't know the comic book. I've never read it, so I don't know how accurate any of this is in adaptation. So,
Right. Yeah, same here. I have it. I have it somewhere because I've moved recently and stuff, and I still haven't gotten to getting all the stuff out of my boxes. So I might have it here. It's just I haven't gotten around to reading it yet. So, but yeah, maybe this will be my inspiration to finally do so.
also, this is just a personal thing for me. I kind of wish that the whole thing with Joker gassing that TV people like wouldn't have made me think back to the Joker movie.
Right, yeah. There were moments where I was watching it, I was just like, aha, I know where they pulled inspiration for, you know. I saw the um I saw where that footprint in those other films, like, you know, the I believe you moment in Batman v Superman, you know, the Joker on the, like, as soon as his doctor was like, I'll book a TV appearance for you. I was just like, oh, I know this is going. I know where this is going. And I know what film that they pulled from this, you know, like, so that was actually kind of fun for me, was like watching this film to see like where all these different movies have pulled from, you know. So yeah, I haven't seen Joker yet though, so I need to, maybe that'll also be my inspiration to see that too.
Yeah, I personally did not like Joker, but that's just me.
You are
um,
the first person I know who said that. Everyone else I've talked to has said they really liked it, so that's interesting.
yeah, I didn't. But yeah, I remember in I think like the behind the scenes on Batman v Superman that Zack Snyder was just like, "Oh yeah, we took this from Dark Knight Returns, the whole mech fight scene, you know."
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Like, yeah, the Batman v Superman fight was pretty much just ripped straight from the Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah. Of course, you know, this has the kind of weird and I don't know why they involved Oliver Queen at all. It really didn't make sense to me for him to be there.
Yeah, that goes to my criticism that I just wish we had more in-depth story with this. I wish the movie could have been longer because that was my question. Like, part one was really good, and then part two just left me asking a lot of but why? Like it wasn't that I had a problem with the story in and of itself, but I wanted to know them once they started talking. Like you have all these references to like what happened to the Justice League, what happened between Superman and Oliver Queen, what happened to between Superman and Batman in the past, why Batman retired. What the fuck is going on with the U.S. government now? What is the world like? Like, there's all these little things that I would have loved more time with. So that was my question of like, I wanted to know what happened back then. Like I wanted to know more, and we just didn't get more. So for me personally, like the fight between Batman v Superman didn't really have much impact because it was just a fight, and I couldn't really like I understood kind of why they were fighting, but it didn't really have an impact because I didn't see the why. Like I didn't get to see what led to this them being so convinced that they have to fight each other at this point. Like I didn't see what led to Superman being like an agent for the US government, what led Batman to retirement, what led to the breakup of the Justice League apparently, and even how Oliver Queen has played a role in this at that point. Because yeah, like that was one of the things I knew was in the story and I was looking forward to was that Oliver Queen was in this. And so I was like, yeah, all right, awesome, Green Arrow. And then he just sort of doesn't appear until the last 20 minutes and he just pops in and then pops out of the story. And so it's just like, and again, I don't know how much of that is due to the adaptation versus what's in the comics. So, you know, but that is like that was my biggest thing with the movie, especially in part two. That was just like, I want to know the why. I want to know more about what's going on. Like, I feel like I could have really enjoyed the story more overall if we had like maybe an extra 30 minutes that was just like a flashback or something that showed all of this information, rather than just kind of, hand wavy dialogue referencing what happened in the past, because I didn't really feel an impact between the fight between Superman and Batman. It just felt like they're fighting for reasons.
Yeah, that's something I actually picked up on too. I felt like the motivation for the two to fight was very thin, because it's like, Superman tries to talk to Batman, well, technically Bruce Wayne, to try to get him to go back to retirement and all of that, and it doesn't work. And even in that scene, Batman's just like, the only way this is gonna happen is if we fight it out and may the best man win, if that's what happens. And it just felt like they fought because Batman wanted them to fight, because there's no other way that this was going to end. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think they both fought because they both felt that way. I mean, because Superman also tells the president, who I think was either is or a caricature of Ronald Reagan, um and like he even says he won't let me take him in alive, so like, but I just wanted to know more. Like, again, why are you here? Why are you working so closely with the US government now, and why is the US government doing what they do? Like, why do they have a problem with Gotham? That's like, from what I understand, that's like a small little city, unless I'm misunderstanding the role it plays in the comics. But from what I understand, that's just like kind of a city that everyone is left like, yep, it's America's dumps. Bad things happen there. So like, why would the US government care about Batman showing up again? Like, it just seems like, I mean, when they're in the middle of a potential nuclear crisis, why the hell would they care at all what Batman is doing right now? Like, okay, so he's beating up thugs and taking down a gang. Like, why do they care? What happened that they care so much about whether or not Batman is back to his old ways?
yeah, I think part one was a good showing of that, when like when Bruce, before Bruce, comes back, and he's just sitting there watching the TV, and it's just like, hey, look at all this bad stuff that's going on, gang violence and people dying. And then he goes back as Batman, comes back to watch the news, and it's just like, oh hey, gang people were arrested, and all the good stuff that happens because he's back.
Right, yeah. And that just goes to like I think the reason why I liked part one more is because as The Dark Knight Returns, just being about The Dark Knight Returns, this small scale story, that only involves like the figureheads in Gotham and like the debate about Batman and his role in it. It's really good because that's the only questions you have. And then once the story starts throwing in everything else, Joker, Superman, the US government versus, the Soviets, like okay, why then should they like okay, back up. I need more, and it's not like necessarily a huge criticism. It's just I like 30 minutes. I feel like could have been enough to just give me like what I want to know and make me care more about like what is the role because when it's just Batman and Gotham, I really enjoy the story. It's everything else beyond that I kind of am like not so much on because there's just not as much there. Whereas, I mean, when the story is just focused on Batman and Gotham, because we're dealing with Batman and Gotham, that the story kind of gives the answers as it goes along, and so I can work with that more.
Yeah. One of the questions I did have, since, we brought up like the US military, I don't know if you remember in part one when Batman goes to the guy that, we find out has been supplying the weapons to the mutants. And then, like, Batman talks to him, Batman leaves, and then you just hear a gunshot. Like, why did he kill himself? I thought he had a wife waiting for him or something.
Yeah, I was a little confused about that too because it's like, okay, what role have you been playing and how does this necessarily stop it? Um and I feel like I don't know. I feel like that could have been an interesting thread if it explored. Um like I didn't have a problem with him necessarily offing himself, but it would have been interesting to explore like, okay, so is his wife I didn't understand, was his wife just sick and not getting treatment, or is she dead and that's why? And either answer then could have been interesting because it's like, okay, if he offs himself and his wife is still sick and dying, like, well, congrats, asshole. You just left her alone in her last moments, like, or if she's dead, then there's still the question of, like, okay, well, what happens now to that, probably inevitable power vacuum that he left because now the weapons either aren't coming in or they're going to come in from someone else, you know what I mean? Like to the gang. And I wish that aspect had been explored a little bit more. Like it wasn't like a huge like it was certainly that aspect of the story was certainly more well rounded than I felt like the Batman versus Superman aspect was.
Right, exactly. And part one also made me question what actually was going on with Dent. Because, like, he gets his face fixed, I think. But then when, like, Batman and him fight and, he pulls the wraps off, and Dent's like, yeah, they fixed me. And they kind of show, like, both, or like his whole face was all red and disgusting. But then it's back to normal. I was just kind of confused on what mindset was he in, what actually was happening there.
How I interpreted it was Harvey had another break in which the Two-Face side of him like basically took like inadvertently by healing him the Two-Face side of him couldn't adapt to that and so took over entirely. So in a way, that's how I interpret it because I feel like the like how Harvey sees himself now was like he is healed and fixed, but inside the others the Two-Face side of him just couldn't deal with that anymore and so just took full control over. And like that's how I saw that. Like he's physically fine, but the reason why he's wrapped up in bandages and stuff like that is because he's not able to come to terms with the fact that yeah, he physically looks fine, and so now all that's left is Two-Face. And but obviously Two-Face is is just all in his head now, you know. So I think that's what I felt like was referencing because Batman seemed to looked a little shocked when he pulled the bandages off. Like it seemed shock out of, oh, he's fine. You know, like they kind of hinted at they might that he might have harmed himself, but in reality, he's fine. He's just too far gone mentally, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's what I thought, because, when they show the whole face being red and burnt in that moment, like maybe that's the allegory of him thinking that the Two-Face side has fully taken over versus the reality of he's fine, actually.
Right. Because yeah, from
Um,
what I understand, the Two Face and Harvey Dent, from how I understand, it's sort of split personality. Like it's two people, you know. And am I right in that assessment, or is that just something that I got from this story? But from what I understand, that I've always felt like that's how Harvey Dent is portrayed in like that. The only other thing I know to Harvey Dent from is, of course, The Dark Knight and the Telltale games, and where it seems like the Two Face side of him and the Harvey Dent side of him are kind of two different people that fight for control over the same body.
yeah, see, that's how I think of it, mostly because, like, what was it? Before watching this, I actually watched the Long Halloween movies, which really explore Harvey Dent becoming Two Face a lot better. And because it's like in those, it kind of starts as like a voice in his head. The Two Face side kind of starts as a voice in his head, and then he gets acid thrown on his face, and then the Two-Face side is like, well, why don't you let me take over for a while? And so that side takes over from being Harvey Dent. So that's kind of how I get at it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I understood it too. And so like that's actually the one thing I wish, again, it just comes down to I wish there was more time. I wish we could have seen more of Harvey Dent as well because I would have loved to have seen like, okay, so what actually snapped in him this time? Like he's plastic surgery, he's healed. So why does he go back to the killing ways? Like what? I wish we could have had like a scene with him, like actually like hearing the voice in his head or whatever, to like show why he necessarily snapped in the way that he did. You know, like um, because I think the contrast of like a fully healed Harvey Dent that is really fully Two Faced now is a really intriguing a really intriguing concept that just can't be fully developed because the story didn't have time for it. You know, like a Dark Knight Returns that is literally just Batman and Gotham dealing with some of his old. Oops, sorry. That is just Batman and Gotham dealing with his old enemies one final time. Um, Including like more on Harvey Dent, more on the Joker, more on hell, more on like Selena Kyle, for example. There was a little bit back and forth between them, and I wish we could have seen a little bit more between them as well. But you know, like a story that is just contained on Batman in Gotham having one last hurrah with his old enemies and friends would have. I like that concept more than a Dark Knight Returns and he has to fight a fascist Superman who's a puppet of the U.S. government now. That's you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree with you. I would have liked more exploration of just Batman and Gotham. Like that again, that's why we both kind of said part 1 was better because it didn't involve, like we knew it was coming regardless of knowing the source material or not. You know how The Dark Knight Returns goes even if you've never read it. Like you know that Batman and Superman are going to fight, the whole government with the Corto Maltese and the Russians and all that jazz. Like, it's coming, but you're just like, can we just have this small Batman story just in Gotham? Like, please.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, Dark Knight Returns is sort of a staple now of Batman. Like, if you don't know the Dark Knight Returns, then you know what it's influenced because so many things pull from it in some way. So yeah, I felt, yeah, I yeah, I know what you mean there, and yeah, I wish we could have just seen, yeah, more of The Dark Knight Returns and less of Batman v Superman and the countless other offshoots that it inspired, you know?
As much as, I would have loved to also know, like you said, why did the Justice League break up? Why did, Wonder Woman go back? Why did Green Lantern leave the planet? It would have been nice to
Yeah.
know.
Those seemed better suited for a and again this just comes down to the way this could be handled better in the comic itself. Maybe this is an issue with the adaptation, but those issues seemed better suited for like the Dark Knight Returns Part 2, as in like the sequel to the Dark Knight Returns, not the Dark Knight Returns, like um I feel like a Dark Knight Returns that is literally just about Batman in Gotham, like making his return and adjusting to a new Gotham could have filled a 2 hour movie all on its own with all the interesting concepts you could have explored that just didn't get explored because it's overshadowed by the other stuff.
I will say, though, I am kind of glad that we didn't have, like, I don't know how this is gonna come off, but like, you know how a lot of Batman stories, it's just like, oh, he's fighting the Joker again. But, then you get the ones where it's like, oh, but now he's fighting the Joker and Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy and Penguin and Tooth, where it's like all of the Rogues Gallery comes out. So sometimes it's nice when it's just like you get Dent, Joker, you just get a few of them. I kind of liked that they didn't go overindulgent into the villains.
Yeah, for sure. I especially liked and I think that's again why I liked part one so much is because like this new gang, I can't remember what they're called. Oh, the mutants. The mutants where they don't have any relationship to Batman, so the only thing they serve as is to show how Batman has to adjust. And yeah, I agree with you. I definitely like the all the villains come together is becoming overdone at this point. Not that it still can't be done well, but it is getting overdone. So I did like the fact that the story broke it up into chunks. Like he faces off against Two Face first, and then it's Joker, and then it's like rather than like I feel like we've seen the team up movie before, and other stories might have had Joker, Two Face in them, and maybe that would be the one downside to a Batman Returns, and it's only focused in Gotham is maybe we would have inevitably seen like another team up scenario that didn't happen because the story developed differently. But I don't know, but I agree. I definitely liked how the villains were handled in this too, because yeah, like it can be very easy to overindulge with all of the rogues gallery.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so the last few things I have, in terms of what I liked, and this is obvious, the animation and the art style were fantastic. I don't know if you agreed, but I thought so.
Oh yeah, yeah. Absolutely. The animation and the art style and everything was a step up from other animated films that I've seen in DC animated films I've seen, and I really enjoyed that bump because it felt like I was watching like a true production. That is definitely one of the big highlights of the film for sure. Is just how it looks, in my opinion.
Yep, which of course lends to the action and the fight scenes, as every DC animated movie is always fantastic.
Yeah, as it for I feel like we've been pretty criticism heavy, but I think that's just because a lot of what's good about the movie, in my opinion, anyways, is really good. So it's like at this point the issues are just sort of are just that much more prevalent because if they had been fixed, they would have been. But so for all of my criticism, like the fight scene between Batman and Superman, really well done. I really liked the fight between the mutant leader and Batman. I really liked seeing like how that went down and like how Batman was methodical about like how he stayed out of the way and just got those few key hits in that then allowed him to overtake his opponent once again and like yeah and So yeah, like I was saying, for as much as I might be seeming like I'm critical of the movie, what is done really well is really well done, and that in particular includes, you know, Batman fighting Superman, because that was a really fun fight. When it went down, I was having a lot of fun watching it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, not to mention too the voice acting. Like I don't know who they picked for this older Batman, but it's just like that really deep voice, really, really went well with it.
Yeah, all of the voice cast did a really good job. That's again kind of something that I noticed, not just with DC films, but animated films in general, is you can kind of pick out like who is the good voice actors versus the ones who aren't. But I felt like every voice actor in this was on their A game and fit their characters well, and fit these interpretations of the characters, um, and even the Joker, like it's very hard to get someone to do the Joker and you not be thinking of like, oh, it's a Mark Hamill knockoff. I felt this Joker was done well in that he is reminiscent of previous Jokers while still being a new Joker that's for this story. And every like the voice acting all around was just handled really well. I really enjoyed that aspect as well, because it's not something that I can always say.
Yeah, I'm glad actually that you mentioned the Joker because yeah, I appreciated whoever they got to do it because like I said, when I watched like The Long Halloween, I was like, it's not Mark Hamill, but they're trying too hard to be Mark Hamill's Joker. But I'm glad that they didn't do that here. Um,
Yeah. Yep. Same. Same.
and I think we can both say that we were sad that Alfred actually died.
Actually, that is the one question I had. Did he actually die? Because the Batman, again, that just goes back to my thing about I wish we had more time. Because if Batman faked his death, did Alfred? Or was Alfred like actually, because we didn't see Batman react. So I feel like that could have been something we see more of. And I feel like if this was a 3 hour long movie, we could have seen more of that, of like, because I didn't know after watching it, of like, wait, are they both actually dead? Okay, no, Batman's back. So is Alfred? And I guess since he doesn't make an appearance at the end, he is. But it was still like, so then if he is, I'm like, oh, we didn't get a moment there, you know? Yeah, and I was really upset when Alfred passed, because, and again, this goes to you know, enough criticism. What I really liked about this story, I really liked Alfred in this film. I think he's always a standout in just about any Batman movie, and I really liked how, you know, he hated Batman, but all along the way, he was kind of like the, "Are you sure about this guy?" And like he's that oh, what do you want to call it? That scolding but caring father figure that Batman needs. And so when he passes on after getting one last glance at his at the old memories in the photo book, when he passed away, I was just like, no, they didn't.
Right. Yeah, I feel like that was one thing is that Batman doesn't feel much when Alfred dies, he doesn't really say anything or even when the Joker dies, I mean he kind of just sits there next to the Joker's body. And I'm not expecting him to cry over the Joker, but he didn't really do anything about it. He didn't say anything.
Right. I mean, conditions didn't really have time for him to say much, but yeah, I did like that. That's another small thing I like. I liked that moment when he's trying to shoot the detonator and he's missing, and he says to the corpse, "Stop laughing at me." You know, like I thought that was a bit of comedic gold right there.
Yeah, I forgot that. That was great. Yeah.
Overall, really well done. Everything about the film was, I felt really it handled exceptionally well. The animation looked really good. The voice acting was really good. The story was overall really good. And my only criticism that I have with it is I just wish we had more. You know, maybe a part three or just 30 minutes extra in one or both parts to give me the answers to certain things that I wish could have been developed more. But as it stands, really well done adaptation, and I feel like I understand now why The Dark Knight Returns is such a staple in Batman lore and the Batman history because yeah, it was a really enjoyable two-part film.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. Again, not knowing the source material may be a hindrance to some of the criticisms and questions that both of us have. But yeah, you can easily tell, especially if you watch certain other live action movies, you can tell where the I forget I can't words right now. God, what am I trying to say?
The inspiration.
Influence. Yeah, inspiration, influence comes from, which is this. You see where Zack Snyder pulls from, you see where the Joker movie pulls from. And like you said, it's obviously one of those Batman comics that, like, if you're a Batman fan, you pretty much are going to read it anyway.
Yeah,
So
I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna track down and see if I can find where the book is amongst my boxes that I've yet to unpack and see if maybe I can find it and give it a read sometime this week.
yeah, yeah. So what would you rate it if? And I don't care how you rate it. If you do stars or whatever, it's up to you.
I think it would be a solid 4 out of 5 or 8 out of 10. Like the criticisms that I have, while I felt like I harped on them a lot, are not are not enough to take away from what was a well-rounded story overall. So yeah, I think it's definitely a movie that I would watch again for sure and put in my must-watch list. And it's inspired me to look into the source material. So if the movie is sets out to do one thing and you accomplish at getting me into the source material, then I think that's the best outcome anything can have.
Exactly. Yep. And I'm right there with you. If I were doing a star system, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5 or an 8 out of 10. It was definitely good and it was definitely enjoyable. Both parts were. And I mean, I would probably buy these on DVD if, I could find them on DVD, but I don't think you can anymore.
If you can't, that would surprise me because I was gonna say the same thing. Yeah, I want when I can have some spare funds to put towards a movie, I might put this on my list of to own on my shelf. I'd be interested. I'd be surprised if you can't, considering that it's like one of the biggest adaptations. But I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably get it on Amazon. I doubt you could find it in stores or something, but
Oh yeah, for sure. That's where I get all my movies though is Amazon. So
all right. I guess if that's all we have to say, you can say again where people can find you.
yeah, I am on Geek Source Entertainment on YouTube, and twitch.tv/Geek Source is where I am active most often right now, running through Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga, and we'll be running through Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga when it releases. So yeah, if you are interested in checking me out, that's where you can find me.
All right. And that's all that both of us have to say. So, if you want to add to the conversation, leave a comment below. As always, thank you for listening, and goodbye.